their amazing hunting tactics. Now the first bird that's going to be coming out for us today is actually going to be flying in way from the back of our field, and her name is Ginger. Now today, Ginger is going to be chasing after a ground bird that's going to be pulled across this field, aiming to mimic some of her.
The old town road, I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
Fast-moving ground prey. But she is one of our shyer birds, so I'm going to need your help. We're going to count down super loudly from 3 and then yell out fly to try and encourage her to come out onto the field. Does that sound good with you guys?
Yes.
All right, we're going to have to be super loud, everybody. In
Yes.
3, 2, 1, fly! And we can look to the back of the field. Here comes Allura, not far behind us, Ginger. We'll see if she can make a catch for us. And she's got it. Let's give her a big round of applause for that, everyone. Now, as Ginger was flying in for us today, or maybe as she's out on the field, you may notice that beautiful rusty red tail that she has. Now, this tail is a great indication that Ginger here is actually a red-tailed hawk. Now, these are one of the most common bird of prey found here in North America, so chances are you have probably seen these birds here in Ontario before, maybe soaring over a farmer's field or sitting on a telephone wire. Now these birds are what is known as sit and wait predators, which means that they will sit and they will wait until some of their fast-moving ground prey, like squirrels or rabbits, scurry out in front of them so they can swoop down and get a nice meal that way. But they also don't like to use a lot of energy when they're out and hunting, so oftentimes we'll see these birds hanging out on the sides of roads, waiting for some roadkill to happen. But because of this, unfortunately, car collisions do pose quite a large threat to these birds, so if you do happen to see a red-tailed hawk hanging out on the side of the road, maybe give it a little bit of room. Now, as I said before, the main focus of today's presentation is going to be on raptors, but you might not actually know what a raptor is. Now, a raptor is a special subclass of birds of prey, and these birds are characterized by their sharp talons, their sharp and hooked beaks, and their super strong feet with which they hunt with. Now, these raptors include hawks, as we just saw with Ginger, our red-tailed hawk, as well as eagles, falcons, and the next bird that's coming out for us today, who is an owl. So coming out here is Mark, and Mark is one of our great horned owls. Now, as Mark is up here on this T-post, I want you to notice some of those beautiful facial features that he has, specifically those absolutely gorgeous yellow eyes. Now, owls' eyes are super cool. They actually jut right into the back of their skull, and they're held in place by bony structures called sclerotic rings. Now, these structures actually make it so that owls aren't able to move their eyes independently of their head, which is why they need that wide degree of rotation with their head. Now, a lot of people do think that all owls can turn their heads a full 360 degrees around, but this simply is not the case. They can, however, turn their heads up to 270 degrees around, though, and this is actually because they have double the amount of vertebrae in their neck than we do, which is pretty cool. Now, Mark here is a nocturnal owl, and a lot of people do think that all owl species are nocturnal, but this is not the case. We do also have crepuscular owls, which like to hunt at the dawn and dusk portions of the day, as well as diurnal owls, which like to hunt at the brightest portion of the day. And a general good way to tell about what kind of owl you're dealing with is by eye color. Now, for the most part, nocturnal owls tend to have darker or black colored eyes, whereas crepuscular owls tend to have orange eyes, and diurnal owls tend to have yellow eyes. However, there are a couple of exceptions to this rule, such as Mark, who had beautiful yellow eyes, but as I said, he is a nocturnal species of owl. Now, we are going to be bringing out another owl species for you, but he's a little bit different. Coming out from your left here is Soren, and Soren is one of our barn owls. Now, when Soren flies out for us, here he comes, I want you to notice just how low down to the ground he flies. Now, owls are what is known as silent hunters. Their prey, like small rodents, have really good hearing, so it is super important for these birds to stay nice and quiet when they fly to not alert their prey. Now, by flying low to the ground, these birds reduce the need to flap their wings as much, and so they don't make as much noise, but they also don't cast as large of a shadow, so their prey can't see or hear them coming. Now, as Soren is up here on this T-perch, I want you to notice some of those key features that he has, specifically that heart shape that was going around his face. Now, this is called a facial disc, and what it does is helps funnel sound directly into the owl's ears. Now, because of this, these barn owls actually have the best hearing in the entire animal kingdom. They can actually hear the heartbeat of a mouse under some snow and ice, which makes them particularly amazing hunters. Now the next bird that's going to be coming out for us today in just a second is going to be flying way down the backfield. She is a very large bird and also very iconic, but you might not actually recognize her. There she goes. Does anyone know what kind of bird this is? You can just shout it out. No, we're not too sure. So that is Rowan, and Rowan is actually one of our bald eagles. Now you might be thinking Rowan doesn't really look like that typical bald eagle. She's missing that iconic white head and white tail. But this is actually because Rowan here is a juvenile. She's only about 2 years old, and these birds only start getting that iconic coloration once they turn about 4 to 5 years old. Now, these birds are found here in Ontario, and if you were to find them here, chances are they'd be hanging around bodies of water because they absolutely love to eat fish. So our trainer here is placing a fish lure on top of this pond, and we'll see if Rowan can swoop in and scoop it right from the surface. And she's got it. Let's give her a big round of applause for that, everyone. Now, as I said, these birds do absolutely love to eat fish. They have a specialized scaling on the bottom of their feet called spicules, which makes it a similar texture to sandpaper, and this lets them hold on to those super slippery fish. Now, oftentimes these eagles are able to just swoop right down, grab their fish from out of the water and fly away with it, but sometimes they go for fish that are a little bit too heavy for them. So what they're actually going to do in that case is hold on to their fish with those super strong feet of theirs, and then row themselves and their fish back to shore with those great big wings that Rowan was showing off for us, because bald eagles are actually quite excellent swimmers. Now, these birds do have a very incredible success story that I feel not enough people know about. Now, in the 1960s and the 70s, there was a pesticide introduced into our environment called DDT. Now, this pesticide was sprayed out to farmers' fields and made its way into the waterways and then up the food chain through bioaccumulation. And while it didn't directly harm these eagles, what it did do was impact their ability to uptake calcium. Now, we all know calcium is really important for you and I for keeping nice and strong bones, but for birds, it's really important for producing strong eggshells. Now, the lack of calcium in the eagles' diets meant they were producing very thin and very brittle eggs, and they were actually so thin that when mom and dad went to go incubate their eggs, they'd end up crushing them underneath their weight. Now, with no new babies to replace the older and the dying generations, these eagles did see quite a large decline in their population sizes. But thankfully, scientists realized that DDT was the cause of the problem, and it was then banned in North America. These birds were then put onto the endangered species list, and through conservation efforts similar to programs like we've had here at African Lion Safari, their populations have slowly risen. And as of today, they've actually been removed off the endangered species list, the threatened species list, and the species at risk list, and can be found in almost every single place that they were found before, which just goes to highlight the importance of conservation efforts. Now, as you all have walked around our facility today, you may have noticed that a lot of the birds we have are actually in pairs, and this is because we have a pretty extensive breeding program here. Now, with this breeding program, of course, comes lots and lots of babies, so I feel it's only fitting that our next guest answers that age-old, kind of awkward question of where do babies come from. And today, that is being answered with Storky, one of our European white storks, and here she comes out for us today. Now, as Storky flies around for us today, I want you to notice some of those key features that she has, like that skinny orange bill and those skinny orange legs. Now, these are both great indications that this bird here is actually not a raptor, but is instead a wading bird, which means that they're going to walk very slowly through rivers and streams, making sure not to stir up any sediment before reaching down and grabbing some of their prey, which may be small fish or crustaceans with that very sharp bill of theirs. Now, these birds do make a very long migration from Europe down to Africa and all the way up again, and this migration does take about 9 months in total, which is why these birds are often associated as the carriers of human babies, as this is the duration of a typical human pregnancy. Now, before our next two birds come down, I was wondering if everyone in the audience that was given the white bird of prey volunteer cards could just make their way up to the front, and we'll let you onto the field. Okay? All right, on your marks, get set, go! Which may seem a little bit silly, but coming out from your left shortly is our pair of black vultures, Donovan and Dyson. And there they go. Now, these birds are very fast when they are flying, as you can see, so you may be wondering, why are we doing a race? Well, these birds are actually scavengers, and they have flat feet, which makes them really good at moving around on the ground, and we're going to show you. Now, before we get started, volunteers, I do have a couple of rules for you guys. So the first rule is going to be the finish line. Volunteers, do you see this T-post in the middle of the field? Can I get a great big thumbs up if you guys can all see it? All right, awesome. So that's going to be the finish line. So whichever group touches that first is going to be the winner of this race, okay? Now I also want you to imagine a line going straight down this field. Volunteers, you guys are going to stay on this side of the field so the vultures have this side. And the last rule is you just want to run as fast as you can without tripping. Sound good? All right, audience, do we have any support for our brave volunteers? All right, awesome. And how about for our vultures? All right, now I am going to need your guys' help to give me the biggest and the loudest countdown from 3. Volunteers, are you guys ready? All right, in 3, 2, 1, go! All right, looks like we're off to a great start here. The volunteers are definitely taking the lead. The vultures are flopping behind, but they didn't stand a chance. Our volunteers definitely won that. Let's give them a huge round of applause, everyone. All right, great job, guys. Now I'll have you guys all head off the field for me here. Awesome. And you guys can all go home now and brag to your friends and families that you are officially faster than a black vulture. Now we like to bring volunteers down here onto the field for a couple of reasons. Of course, first, to have some fun, run around with these birds, to show you their super cool flat feet and how good they can move around on the ground, but to also show you that they're not deserving at all of this horrible reputation that they normally get. Now here in Ontario, we do have our native turkey vultures, and chances are you've probably seen them before on the side of the road or even maybe flying over this presentation field. Now, unfortunately, vultures are often villainized because we tend to see them eating some decaying roadkill, and many people think that that is gross. But this actually couldn't be further from the truth. These vultures are incredibly important to our ecosystem, and this importance can be seen in areas that are suffering from vulture crises, like in Africa or India. Now, these places have seen massive declines in their vulture population sizes, but with these declines actually comes a direct increase in the amount of human death and disease. And this is because vultures have an incredibly strong stomach acid, which is capable of breaking down bacteria and viruses that may harm us. So the next time you see a vulture on the side of the road enjoying a meal, make sure to give it a great big wave and say thank you so much for keeping me safe. Now, I think we can all agree that that volunteer race was pretty speedy, but we're going to be picking up the pace quite a bit. Coming out from your left shortly here is Lester, and Lester is one of our Sacre Falcons. Now, these birds are very fast. They can actually reach speeds of up to 150 kilometers an hour. And while Lester's not going to be going quite that fast for us today, he is hopefully going to be showing off some of his speed in a demonstrated aerial hunt. Now, our trainer has a winged lure that he's swinging around, aiming to mimic some of Lester's fast-moving aerial prey. And right now we can see him kind of going all over the place. He's taking some circles, going above some of the stands, but this is actually a totally normal part of the hunt, and it's called waiting on. Now these falcons do this for a few reasons: to get a feel for the wind and the air conditions, to warm up those great big flight muscles of theirs, but also as a confusion mechanism, so that his prey, or our trainer's lure in this case, doesn't know exactly what angle Lester is going to be coming from, or that it's being hunted. Now we'll see here if Lester is able to make a catch in the air for us, and he's got it. Let's give him a big round of applause for that, everyone. Now these falcons are very skilled hunters, and oftentimes they are able to grab their prey right out of the air, but as I also said, they can go incredibly fast. And sometimes they're going a bit too fast to just do that, so what they're going to do in that case is they're going to ball up their feet and punch their prey. Now at over 100 kilometers an hour, that punch is going to hurt pretty badly, and usually it does kill their prey right on impact, but if not, these birds do also have a specialized adaptation called the tomial tooth, which is a little notch on their beak, and it lets these birds crack open the vertebrae of their prey so they can enjoy their meal that way. Now here at African Lion Safari, we do take part in several conservation programs and projects, but one that is very near and dear to our heart here at Bird of Prey is for the eastern loggerhead shrike, which is one of Ontario's most endangered songbirds. But thanks to you all coming out and supporting us, we've actually been able to release over 1,000 of these individuals into Ontario's wilderness, so we always just like to extend a great big thank you for letting us preserve these beautiful bird species. Now we are going to be joined up front here with Lester, one of our Sacre Falcons, as well as one of our red-tailed hawks, so feel free to come up, take any pictures, or ask us any questions. We hope you enjoyed the presentation and have a great rest of your day here at African Lion Safari.
That is guys, fantastic news. Well, you're probably wanting to see a bunch of cool animals, am I right? Yeah, I figured. You're definitely in the right spot here at Wild Wonders. We have a massive variety of animals to show you, whether they're scaled, flighted, or furry. Now, with each animal we bring out, we're going to touch upon a couple of key points mentioning the overall theme of the presentation, which is really how these animals will impact their ecosystem and help to maintain its balance simply just by living within it and interacting with it. Now, unfortunately, even in this heat, I've got bad news. We're starting with a pop quiz for all of you audience members. So, if you know the answer, shout it on out. What kind of animal might just take their shelter with them wherever they go? Oh my gosh, bunch of geniuses in the audience. You are absolutely correct. So coming on out, we have our pair of red-footed tortoises, Donna and Splinter, out here with us tonight. Now, most of you did say turtle. That is still the right answer. You see, all tortoises like these guys are turtles, just not all turtles are tortoises. So easier way to tell if they're a land dweller like these guys, they're a tortoise. If they're mostly aquatic, they are a turtle by comparison. Now, red-footed tortoises are actually a highly social species of tortoise. They communicate with each other using head movements, clicks, and chirps, and they live in groups of varying sizes, both out in the wild and in a group of 5 here at Safari. Now, I hate to be a little bit rude, a little bit crass here, but honestly, best thing a tortoise does for its environment? It goes to the bathroom. Yeah, their poop is amazing stuff. They've got a whole bunch of seeds within it from what they eat throughout their environment. And as they pass fecals throughout their environment, they're working to help disperse those seeds so they can take root and grow in new areas. Now, on top of this, because these guys are grazers, which means they eat a large variety of vegetation, they're also helping to ensure that no one plant species dominates an area, making sure that the biodiversity of the vegetation within can stay nice and high. Now, these guys, well, honestly, they don't really do a whole much more than what you're seeing right now, which is pretty much just lying down. So let's give it up for all that hard work that they're doing today. All right, pop quiz question number 2. This one's a little bit more tough, but same drill. Shout it out if you know. We have 2 reptiles with shells out here, but can you guys tell me the name of the only mammal with a shell? I think I heard it. Armadillo. That is correct. So we have Dora and Diego coming out next. They are our pair of 3-banded armadillos. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a pretty teeny tiny armadillo, but believe it or not, they are fully grown at this little size here. As you can see, Diego is the one running a race against himself along the front corridor, and Dora is the one curled up nice and softly within Victoria's hands here. Now, out of the close to 20 armadillo species in the world, we consider this to be the most well-protected armadillo species. And that's because their head and their tail fit together like a little puzzle piece, just like Dora showing off. This means they have no abdomen exposed, and it makes it quite tough for predators to get to their insides. Now, these guys participate in burrowing behaviors, which means that if they want to escape the really hot weather, they're going to dig a little burrow into the ground and stay nice and safe from the hot sun. This will also protect them from being spotted by any predators, and it helps out their ecosystem. Once they're done with that burrow, what they've done is created an altered habitat, and other animals can come by and use that burrow to protect their own selves just as well. Now, if you have a problem with a whole bunch of ants running around in your kitchen this summer, well, let me offer up Dora and Diego services. They are the perfect solution. They love to eat insects. Any tasty grubs they're able to find hidden in the ground. However, armadillos are known for having particularly awful eyesight, so they'd actually rather track down their next meal using their keen sense of smell and the whisker-like hairs located all up and down their abdomen. Now, armadillos, as you might have seen as Diego was running past, they actually have very, very long claws on their front 2 feet. Now, besides making it sound like high heels when they run on the linoleum, which is quite entertaining, it's actually their tools for finding their next meal hidden in the soil. Now, they have no idea the favor they're doing for their ecosystem. As they're digging around in that soil, stirring it up, what they're doing is improving its quality and making it more fertile for future plant growth. Now, Dora and Diego obviously have very opposite personalities. I think they both deserve a little bit of recognition out here, so let's hear it for the 2 of them today. All right, so you guys got both quiz questions answered correctly. So we have a reward next in the form of, well, in my opinion, one of the cutest animals out there. Coming around this corner is Annabelle. You can call her Annie, being her new friends here. And she's a southern tamandua. In other words, might make a little more sense when we call her a lesser anteater. Pretty unique looking animal, that's for sure. Now she's a lot smaller than the giant ground-dwelling relatives that you're probably used to seeing out of the anteater world, and that's because she's not living on the ground for the most part. She's actually arboreal by nature. As you can see, she's very comfortable walking along this perch here. Now she would be found way up high in the South American rainforest in the tree canopies. But a good reason to visit the ground is, of course, to find a tasty snack. Now, being an anteater, we all already know Annie prefers to eat lots of ants, as well as termites, soft drink fruits, and even some honey or bees at the end of her day if she wants a little bit of a sweet treat. Now, being a southern tamandua means that she's capable of eating 9,000 insects in a single night. Pretty cool stuff. Now her body is uniquely adapted to make that as easy as possible for her. For one thing, look at that beautiful, gorgeous fur she has all over her body. It's very thick and very coarse, which helps to protect her skin from any insect bites as she's feasting away. Now you saw she expertly slid down that pole, making it very easy because she has those 2 claws up front. Now those claws are her tools for digging into termite mounds and anthills, which can actually be quite hard to cut open, and she can get to the tasty insides that way. Once she's done so, she has a foot-long, sticky, barbed tongue in her mouth, not a single tooth in sight, just that tongue, and that will get as many ants as she can in one swoop of it. Now I have to say, Annie here is very, very intelligent as well. When she finds an insect home and she gets to the insides, she's not going to gobble up every single individual ant inside of it. Instead, she's going to leave a little bit behind, so if she's looking for a meal on a later date and she can't quite find one, she knows that she can come back to that spot and have just a little bit more from it. In fact, she's also very helpful to her fellow rainforest dwellers in this way. She's going to do all of the heavy lifting by tearing apart those insect homes, and then a lot of other animals can come by that really don't have those same claws and take advantage of the easy meal that she's created for them. Now, obviously, not just a cute face, turns out very, very helpful as well. Let's give it up for the adorable Annabelle today. Now, so far, we've gone through a bunch of South American species, but coming out next, we're shaking things up with an Australian one. This here is Fez. Fez is a laughing kookaburra. Now they get that nickname from the sound of their call, which many often compare to the sound of children laughing. But they are also called the Bushman's alarm clock. That's because that call that they have most often happens at dawn and at dusk. Now that call is territorial, meaning that if they wanted to establish where their territory ends and the next one does begin, all they have to do is fly to the very edge of theirs, give a great big laugh, and wait to hear a response. Now if Fez looks at all familiar to you, it might be because he's the largest member of the kingfisher family, and right here in Ontario we have the native belted kingfisher. Now this guy, by comparison, doesn't actually eat a whole lot of fish. These guys have evolved over hundreds, millions of years, whatever it might be, to have a certain amount of tolerance to eat venomous snakes. So they're very helpful to their Australian ecosystem, taking away a lot of those really harmful animals. Now we won't stop talking about his really awesome call, so let's see if we can get him back up to the spot. What do you say? And I'm going to mute my mic. Let's see if we can get him to do one of his calls for us. That laugh certainly speaks for itself, wouldn't you say so? Now he's done a lovely job flying around out here. Where'd you go? Where'd he go? Oh, there we go. Yep, back home? Yeah, he's going back home. Let's give it up for Fez today.
Now we just went through a few examples of native species doing a whole lot of good in their native environment. But the waters do get a little murky as we introduce invasive species. Coming up to help me talk about this topic is Joanna, and she is our Argentine black and white tegu. Now, as the name suggests, she is from Argentina, Chile, and the surrounding area. And no, it wasn't because of their little legs. It was due to pet merchants and pet owners releasing their unwanted pets into the wild that they have now become invasive in Florida. Now, tegus are highly adaptable species, making their homes wherever they go. Now, though that might sound pretty awesome, it does cause issues for the native species, as they are now competing for resources. Hello? There we go. They are competing for resources that include food, water, and shelter. Not to mention that invasive species in general do bring with them a whole plethora of germs that native flora and fauna do struggle to fight against. Now, tegus are omnivores, eating a wide variety of things, but as they grow up, they grow an appetite for eggs, more specifically reptile eggs that can be easily found along the shoreline. Now, if you take a good look at Joanna, you will see all of that muscle connected to her jaw, which does help her crack through these delicious eggs. Now, although their populations are rising in Florida, quite the opposite is true in their home country of Argentina. Now, this is due to the unfortunate commercialization of their skins, which are being used for fancy purses and shoes. I did talk to Joanna backstage, and she did ask for a huge favor from all of you. Now, if you don't mind, we'll make a pledge. So if you can raise up one of your hands and repeat after me. I will never ever release my pet into the wild. Now, what do you think, Joanna? I think she's very happy with the pledge and for all of you being such responsible pet owners. So although Joanna may cause issues down in Florida, here at Wild Wonders she does an excellent job representing what it means to be an invasive species. So let's give her a round of applause. Now, our next animal uses their appearances to mask in the leaf litter of sub-Saharan Africa. Coming around the corner, we have Zippo, our ball python. There we go. From all of your expressions, I can tell she might not be a fan favorite, but I'm hoping as you learn a little bit more about her, you will come to appreciate her just as much as we do. Ball pythons get their name from their ability to coil up in a ball when they feel scared, threatened, or are ready to attack. This coiling effect not only protects their vital inner organs, but it adds a spring-like effect to their attack, making it much more powerful. Now, you don't have to worry about Steven as he's handling Zippo, as she's a non-venomous snake. Instead, she's a constrictor. So this means that once she catches her food, she's gonna wrap her body around it, giving it a big old squeeze, and then swallowing it in one gulp. Now, she's also not too hungry as we did feed her a few misbehaving children. Oh. But of course, I'm just kidding. Zippo is the smallest of the python family, meaning she could only eat a small rat or a large mouse. And although that might sound pretty gross to you and I, it actually helps us quite a bit as Zippo controls rodent overpopulation and helps curb the spread of germs and diseases. So though your main reaction may be to run, hide, or even scream at the sight of her, she helps us quite a bit. So let's all say thank you, Zippo.
Thank you, Zippo.
Now, I just went on and on about how snakes love to eat rodents, but this next rodent is one that a snake would never dare touch. Coming around, we have Dolores, and she's a prehensile-tailed porcupine. Now, as she makes her way around the front, I want you guys to take a close look at her tail. You will notice it is very similar to Annie, her southern tamandua, and that is because they both come from very similar environments, both being arboreal species and from the South American rainforest. Now, Dolores' tail is so incredibly strong, it can bear her full weight as she hangs completely upside down. So it does act like a fifth limb. In doing so, her hands are totally free, so she's able to forage and find some yummy snacks to eat. Her favorite one being the cambium layer of tree bark, which is very nutritionally rich and holds a lot of hydration. So you bet on hot days like today, Dolores definitely gets her water intake, as I hope all of you are as well. Now, she is a porcupine, so we can't ignore the fact that she has quills. Front row, I assure you, you are all safe, as it is a myth that porcupines can shoot out their quills and that they are venomous. Instead, If Dolores wanted to prick a predator on purpose, she would make her quills stand up nice and tall. She would look about 4 times larger and so intimidating. And then she would walk in a side-to-side movement, hoping to prick them in a sensitive area, such as the eyes, nose, mouth, or even ears. In doing so, she would hurt them just enough so she has time to climb back into the trees to hang out with her buddies. So though she is prickly, she is our sweetheart, so let's give her a round of applause. Now Dolores is the superstar and the last animal of today's presentation, so I thank each and every one of you for coming on such a hot, sunny day. But don't leave too soon, as we're going to bring the animals nice and close to the gate so you're able to ask any remaining questions and take as many photos as you'd like. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day on safari. Bye.